Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Naman Shah, who is the founder of NowPurchase, which is a platform that suggests and delivers raw materials with keeping the cost of manufacturing lowest through a software and a WhatsApp bot. Naman is a graduate of National University of Singapore. Hi Naman, welcome to ELI.
Thanks, Priya, for having me here. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year to everyone listening.
Happy New Year to you, Naman. I'd request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
I'm Naman. I'm born and brought up in Calcutta. I did my schooling here. After my schooling year, I went to NUS Singapore to pursue my undergrad. Sometime in my second or third year there is where I got exposed to what I would say entrepreneurship in the internet and technology domain, where I started interning for a couple of startups, and then eventually ended up spending a couple of years in the US working for an early stage startup called Biz Equity, and then helping them set up shop in Singapore and India. So that's been my journey on the technology entrepreneurship side. On a personal front, I come from a family of people who have been into the manufacturing and the business sphere for decades. Entrepreneurship in general has been something which I have been exposed to since a very early day. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a bit about Now Purchase.
So, what is now purchased today? If you think about it, everything around us, right, for the foreseeable future will remain some form of metal. Now, given that it will remain some form of metal, manufacturing these metals efficiently is extremely important. We believe manufacturing these metals efficiently can only be done if two things are sorted. A, very strong and efficient raw material procurement. And B, if you're having deep manufacturing insights on how to manufacture these metals. We try to solve both these challenges through our procurement platform as well as a proprietary software called Metal Cloud. So,
Mhm.
in very simple words, we are a procurement company for metal manufacturers like foundries as well as steel companies.
Okay. Uh, can you also give us a perspective on how the metal industry operates in India, especially in an era where China is dominating the manufacturing industry, and whatever you want to manufacture it is cheaper in China. So how does it work in India? Can you give us some trends and perspective?
Sure. Sure. So yes, China is definitely the number one when it comes to both steel and foundries. But India is in the second and in the top three spots for both. Since the last couple of years, since the pandemic, as well as the global supply chain shift, there has been a lot of shift of sourcing towards India, where people have started realizing that dominance and over reliance on one country is also not efficient for them. That, along with a very strong government push around infrastructure, automobile, as well as Make in India, is currently you can see a very strong movement happening in the steel and metal industry in India, where we are seeing millions and millions of tons of capacity being added year on year. So yes, China has been, but it looks like there's been a very strong gradual shift which has been accelerated by the pandemic, and we see this rising in the times to come.
Okay. Now take us through the journey of Now Purchase. How it all started. What was the idea initially, and uh, who were the people who came together to build this venture?
Sure, sure. So, I came back to India sometime in 2017, and that's when Now Purchase started. Initially, the concept was very simple: was that we want to bring the same level of convenience to business purchases like there are there in consumer purchases. So, if we need anything, we can order on Swiggy, Amazon, Make My Trip, Zomato, Book My Show, hundreds of these consumer apps, which make our personal lives very easy. Now, between businesses, the number of transactions happening are manifold and
Mhm.
are more complex, but there is not many apps and solutions available to make those purchases simple. So with that, the idea of Now Purchase was born. Initially, this was a concept which came to me with when I was speaking to my cousin Akash, and he
Mhm.
mentioned about how daily purchasing at factories is still cumbersome, and that brought to light the idea of Now Purchase. As Now Purchase evolved in these last 4 years, we have become an industry specific procurement platform. And we realized that going deep in the B2B space is extremely important because each industry has their own unique challenges and opportunities. So it's not as simple as consumers where you can build horizontal platform. It's important to build it more vertical and specific to the domain and industry.
Okay. Uh, Prior to now purchase, can you tell us how the purchase used to happen in the industry? How they used to procure the raw material and all?
Sure, sure. So in the domain in which we are operating today, there are obviously different product categories. So I'll take a couple of product categories we deal in, things like ferroalloys, things like metal scrap. So let me talk about a couple of these categories. Firstly, most of these categories are dominated by different kinds of intermediaries and traders who would be dealing in a specific 2 or 3 SKUs. So
Mhm.
A, the customer would have to go to multiple suppliers to source his inputs. So that was the first challenge. Second is a lot of times the market uptrend, downtrends, volatility was concealed from the market, and it was like people who try to take advantage of this to make an extra profit. At Now Purchase, we provide a WhatsApp bot which makes a price discovery and stock discovery something very very transparent. Now coming to a product category like metal scrap, that's still a very very unstructured and unorganized category. In India, metal scrap is treated like garbage or not something which is organized. We are trying to use technology as well as a full stack supply chain solution to sort of organize the metal scrap, so that when people are buying metal scrap, they know what they are getting in terms of size, in terms of quality, in terms of chemical composition, and so forth. So yes, I would not say that the things have totally changed. We are still very much in our early days, but yes, we are definitely making, I hope, the right moves to change this industry.
When you build a platform, especially a B2B platform, you have to onboard multiple stakeholders from buyer side and seller side. So only after a certain point only it will be viable for businesses to use the platform. So can you tell us when and how did you reach to that point when your platform was market ready?
So I would say this is like a problem which any two-sided platform would face, right? Whether you get demand first or supply first, the classic chicken and egg kind of situation. We sort of learned from our mistakes earlier, and we focused on only a few SKUs and built demand first. So we acted as the platform acted as a producer, built demand first, and that's what we continue to do so for all the new SKUs or new categories we add. So we build demand first, and then we slowly open up the supply side and build supply only enough to sort of liquidate them enough so that the suppliers are happy on the platform, rather than having too many suppliers whom we are not able to give enough demand to.
Hmm. Also, can you tell us how did you generate demand? What were the ways that you know?
So, if I look at back at that, this is around, 14, 15 months ago, where we started looking at different hypotheses saying that what can we do? What is there in the market? So we ran multiple hypotheses. Some were around live tracking. Can we provide live tracking on every order? Does that help us acquire some customers? Can we provide a delivery guarantee? That usually what happens in the business sphere is that, oh, aaj deliver nahi ho sakta, kal hoga. I'm not able to deliver today, I'll deliver tomorrow, and you ask for an excuse. We said that, okay, if you don't deliver on our promised time, we would provide you a percentage of the order value as a credit note. This meant that we were taking very strong assurance. So we came up with these different hypotheses to go and aggregate demand. B, in terms of finding leads, we obviously used our WhatsApp bot to make pricing available to everyone, irrespective whether they were our customer or not. And secondly, we tied up with different chambers of commerce, both on a local level and a national level, and started providing knowledge sharing webinars and seminars to the different stakeholders in the industry. So these are the 3, 4 things we did in order to build demand.
Okay. And can you also tell us how did you onboard the suppliers to the platform?
Uh, so I would, be honest, right? Initially, for the categories except scrap, supplier onboarding was not too challenging. They were, as long as they were getting the orders, getting the payments on time, they were happy to come on board because we had already had the demand. Of course, we had to ensure now that as we scale, the supplier conflict is not there. So we need to onboard suppliers in a way that they are getting benefit from the platform and are not getting cannibalized. So now there's a different challenge, but initially it was not so much challenging because they were like, okay, we are going to get the right price. we are going to get the payment. So there was no reason they could see why not coming to the platform, because they were not having to take care of logistics, quality, marketing. We were taking care of everything. They just had to provide the stock from their warehouse when we would place vehicles from our third party logistics partners.
Okay. Can you also share a can you also tell us about how did you manage the finances in the initial days, especially when you generate demand? It is an expensive process. Also, building a platform has its own cost. How did you manage the finances for that?
Yes, definitely. So, B2B is a challenging play in any, and especially finance part is challenging. So we used a couple of things. One is that we were lucky to have support of our initial family office, NIFA, to help us with some angel funds. That definitely helped us in that transition period. A, and B, we were able to, build a lot of supplier trust who started to offer us some credit. So that in the early days really helped us, along with finding customers where the payment rotation was much faster. So initially we were trying to figure out and optimize working capital cycles by using a combination of own funds as well as customer payment terms and supplier terms. Using a combination of these three, we were able to transition through the early phase of capital crunch.
Okay. Can you tell us what are the different challenges that you have faced so far while building and growing this platform?
So there are many, right? Let me. So I would say that. So firstly, the biggest challenge comes in is that uh, you have to build enough knowledge yourself, so that because you are talking to suppliers who have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, you have been talking to customers who have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. So
Hmm.
firstly, we realize that it is important that we build a extremely strong knowledge base internally. We should know how a foundry is operating. We should know what are these materials. We should know what is a good material, what is a bad material. We should know the internal processes. So I think the first important thing challenge we noted was that we need to develop our own knowledge base because these are technical products. So that is the first and foremost challenge which we encountered. Second challenge which we encountered was that in some of the product categories we worked with, there seemed to be, I would, for a lack of a better word, a cartel of the local suppliers who were already operating, and they would try to control the prices. So there it was a challenge, and we had to start taking risks where we also started importing materials. We started working with suppliers outside in different parts of the country. So if we had customer in east, we were sourcing material from sometimes west and north
Mhm.
to be able to break into this cartel.
Okay.
I would say that is second. Third is, a lot of challenges on the technology adoption side, which still continue to be so. So one of the learnings which we had was, rather than ourselves building an app for doing this, we sort of piggybacked on using the WhatsApp as a main medium to be able to
Mhm.
reach out to our customer base. So I would say these are some of the two, three top challenges which come to the mind right now.
Any pivots that you have done to your platform?
Yes. So primarily one large, very large pivot, right? So initially when we started off NowPurchase, we were a procurement platform for the stores and consumables division. So we were supplying fasteners, tools, bearings, electricals, wires, hardware, and so on. We were focusing on non-raw material purchase across all industries. And we would do this through our pure e-commerce site, which had 40,000 SKUs listed, as well as through our field team.
Mhm.
We sort of totally shut that model off around 18 months back and became industry specific and started focusing on core raw materials for a specific industry, as well as no longer operate a pure e-commerce marketplace. So it was a very, very large pivot where we actually changed industries, staged our product category, changed our delivery medium. So literally we changed everything possible in the business, except that it's still a B2B procurement business. And it's been a very big learning as we pivoted, because this pivot has sort of till now seemed to be working for us, and we're very confident of scaling this pivot.
Okay. What are some of the metrics that you track on a day-to-day basis to understand where your platform is going?
So a few things, right? Of course, every company tracks orders, revenue, average order value, gross margins. adoption on the technology products usage. Those are metrics which everyone tracks. So let me talk to you about a couple of specific metrics we track. So we are looking at purely one metric, which we call SOPW. So which
Mhm.
is share of purchase wallet. So how much of the purchase wallet of the customer are we currently tapping on? This
Mhm.
is a metric we obsess over because we realize that unless we're able to tap on a significant portion of the purchase wallet of the customer, we can't become a significant partner. And if we
Mhm.
can't become a significant partner, that means we are replaceable. To become sort of a very critical piece of the supply chain, we need to be able to tap on a significant part of this purchase wallet, or
Mm.
what I call SOPW, share of purchase wallet.
Okay. And any sort of growth hack that you have discovered along the way?
A couple of things again. Not so. One is, of course, being able to tap on our customers, right? It's something which is very said growth hack. Everyone knows referrals are the best way to grow your business, but
Mm.
it's still, I think, under tapped. Like every time I think of it, I think we have still not done enough. So if a customer is happy, the way that you can open doors to 5 more customers is still the fastest in the B2B domain. So
Mm.
there is a lot of things on ensuring. Firstly, to do this, you need to ensure your current customers are very happy. Then
Correct.
only can you get strong referrals, because you need a referral where a customer calls up another prospective customer and says that you have to use NowPurchase. It
Mm.
has to be that level of referral, and that level of referral can only come up when we are able to sort of ensure our current customer base becomes very happy. Along with this, some of the growth hacks, like I earlier mentioned, we started providing, during the downtime when people were battling COVID, we started supplies of essentials for everyone at market rates, because people were selling masks, people were selling thermometers at extremely high prices. We
Mm-hmm.
said our customers need to protect their workers and their employees at their factory. Let us provide them essential supplies at market rates. That became a very, very big growth hack for us, because we suddenly gained trust of people and people started knowing about NowPurchase, because
Mm.
they were like, okay, these guys are not trying to capitalize on this market uptrend and selling us things at 2x, 3x the cost, and are still charging fair prices. So that is one growth hack which has been really, really valuable for us in these last few years.
Okay. Now we will talk about the personal side of being an entrepreneur. To start with, can you tell us why did you leave your well-paying career in a foreign country and come back to India to pursue now purchase?
So I'll tell you both sides, a little bit of the macro side and then on my personal side as well. So on the personal side, I seem to, since the start, it's been very clear that I would like to pursue entrepreneurship and build my own business. That is a combination of, I would say, my bringing up some of the family influence, as well as when I started working for these early stage technology startups in Singapore and US.
Mhm.
And that's the reason I chose to work for an early stage startup and not a high paying consulting job. That's the reason I took up working for an early stage startup, where I joined them as early as the third employee. Now, on the larger scheme, if I had to start a business, I would always start it in India, not any other country, or at least not in a developed country, because it just feels like there's so many more problems and challenges and opportunities in India than
Mhm.
developed nations who have already solved for things.
Correct.
There are things very primitive and primary which are yet not solved in India.
Mm.
So if someone is having a roots in India and looking to start up, I don't see any reason why they won't come back to the country and launch their businesses, given now that the ecosystem is extremely well developed and thriving.
Okay. Uh, as an entrepreneur, you are expected to stay energetic and consistent over time. But sometimes, as a person, you lose focus and you may get tired with time. Can you tell us how do you manage situations where you are not able to focus?
So a couple of things I do, not sure if right or wrong. This is what I do, right? It is bound to happen, right? It is like, it's human, right? You obviously are always high energy because you are passionate about what you are building,
Mm.
but sometimes you can lose out energy due to multiple factors, right? And so a couple of things I do is, it's always to go back and start talking to team members who are still having that energy. So that energy again starts rubbing off of you. That is a very simple thing which I do, and that really helps. And especially when we
Mm,
are working from home, it's something I do often because it just keeps giving me that adrenaline rush of talking to people across our teams, whether technology or sales or vendor development. That's one. Two is, it's not emphasized enough, but everyone needs to take some time off. So it's important to take some time off, even if it's a couple of days, to recharge and get back. And that really helps you to get that energy levels, that focus. See, a lot of times I realize that this focus and energy is a lot of times critical for individual work.
mm,
So if I want to work on something alone, I need that high focus and high energy. But a lot of times, if the work is involving external stakeholders and meetings, so if there are times like this, I try to pack my schedule with meetings with external stakeholders to get my routine and flow again going, and
mm.
that helps me sort of get back to action. So yeah, these are some of the things I do.
How does the typical day look for you?
So yeah, so typical day, I try to start my day early. Try to start my day by around 8 o'clock to get through and plan my day. Typically, get into work if when we are going to the office would be 9:30 or something like that, and try to just spend the first half an hour, 45 minutes thinking about what I'm planning to do, and check my email for first 15-20 minutes, and then not check pretty much for the entire day till evening. So that's something which I implemented recently, and it's been really helpful for me to be able to focus. And post that, usually the first half is for more work where I need higher focus. And typically, any kind of meetings I try to schedule in the second half with anyone, whether internally or externally. So that's typically, and then that's typically what my workday looks like.
Okay. What would you say is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How do you define the term entrepreneur?
Uh, so the way I look at entrepreneurship is that you are sort of enjoying the process of creation, right? The creation is entrepreneurship for me. And this creation a lot of times could be different things, right? It could be a creation within the company as well, because there could be entrepreneurs within the company who are creating a new process, a new division, a new product flow. So I would say entrepreneurship is creation, if I had to say in a very very one word answer.
Okay. And as an entrepreneur, when you create things, some things don't work out and we call them failures. Can you give us examples where you have failed as an entrepreneur?
So obviously, even if I go back prior to Now Purchase, there was a edtech project which I started for high school students, where I was trying to get the best of class 9, 10, 11, 12 teachers to students across the country. And this is while I was in college. And I realized at that time compared to today that, it was something which couldn't be done without having enough investment in building the knowledge base, right?
Mm,
And B, the internet that time was not supportive of video streaming. And
right.
I thought, let's video stream lectures. When we started going to teachers, we realized, and students, we realized that the bandwidth is not enough, because this was geo time was not there then.
Mm,
This is around 8 years back.
okay.
If I look at Now Purchase, even in the first couple of years, I think some of the experiments we were doing, we spent too much time on it. We could have pivoted faster in hindsight. So yeah, uh, yes, these are the big ones. Small ones, I think, keep happening on a regular basis.
That is true. Also, when you build a platform, um, uh, lot of growth happens because of compounding effects. Can you tell us about one or two instances where you have witnessed compounding effect in your venture?
So to be very honest, Priya, we are still early to get the network and compounding effects going, given that we are still growing the platform. But I would still talk about compounding effects to tell you, like from our sales perspective and how we have grown our customer base. We have seen how focusing on small set of customers, but providing them a new product category on a regular every couple of months period has had a strong compounding effect, because
Mm,
if I would look at our number of orders or our AOV or average order value 6 months back and today, I can see almost a 2x kind of growth. And that's purely by focusing on them and providing them one thing more on a regular basis. And that's where I've seen a compounding effect happen. Um, and I would say, even let's look, forget sales, right? Even when we're building the team,
mhm,
slowly building the team. and then seeing, okay, now the referrals start coming in from internal stakeholders, from external stakeholders. There is also where I am seeing some compounding effect happening, given that we have been focused on hiring for the last 3-4 months, and we can certainly see our hiring graph and our hit rates becoming much faster, where we are able to attract the right kind of talent who are in sync with our culture as well as our goal.
Okay. The next aspect I want to cover is hiring. How do you hire people into your venture, or even if it is not candidates coming in, how do you onboard other stakeholders like investors, like customers? What kind of people do you onboard in your venture?
So let me talk about team building. So one of the things which I am a firm believer of, right, is we need to build a talent pipeline. And this belief is, by looking and speaking to this was I think Prokalpa, who currently runs a successful company called Atlan, she had written about it, that it's more important to build a talent pipeline than sales pipeline. And I could not agree more, right? You need the right set of people to come in on a regular basis in a growing company. So one of the things we focus on is how we keep on building a strong flow of talent through the system. Something which I do is, chalk out at least 2 to 3 hours every week to have conversations which are without agenda with people. And this has been very helpful for me, because serendipitously, more often than not, at least one or two every month end up becoming leads for me to get new people or new sales suppliers or new customers. And these are no agenda conversations with people who reach out, say, on LinkedIn or get connected through our friends or other networks. Uh, if I would go closer to our system, we spend some time understanding the person on a personal level before even we get into the technical side. So I typically spend the first 5 minutes just understanding the personal background of the person. Where is he coming from? What's his family background? What got him? If someone is following engineering versus, say, chartered accountancy, what is the motivation behind it? And that's where I spent 5-10 minutes. And I've seen that those 10 minutes have been critical in helping me make a decision either way.
Mhm.
So that's something which I follow very closely. And yes, I think one of the most important things as a growing company is to figure out how do you uh, build the right team with the right people and the right value system, right? Because in today's world where the right talent is being approached by hundreds of companies, it's important to keep our heads level and figure out what is the right thing to go after and what is something which is a noise in today's ecosystem.
Hmm. Probably my final question to you. Uh, can you tell us what are the different lessons that you have learned, especially the interesting lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur, which we can take away and apply to our lives and our ventures?
So a few things. I'll start with some basic things, which are very simple things, which we don't hear because we typically hear about the bigger mantras. But I'll tell you some simpler things which we will. So if you're operating any kind of transactional business
Mm,
where you are selling goods or services on a regular basis, whether it's a D2C brand, whether it's a marketplace platform, anything where the transactions are happening on a frequent level,
mhm,
it is extremely important to have your accounts, bookkeeping, finances in order. Sometimes when you start the company, you're like, let's not hire someone for accounts, manage kar lege, we'll figure out. And we don't realize, and it suddenly balloons up to become a problem where we're not able to manage. So
mm,
sometimes I feel putting that resource and investment upfront makes sense if it's a transactional business. If it's a SaaS product, might not be relevant. But if it's any kind of transactional business, it is important to keep those systems in order, especially in India where there are a lot of compliances which can happen and depending on the business.
mm,
So that's a very simple, practical thing which we didn't do, and we faced some effort which we could have saved if we did it on day one. That is, I would say, the first thing. Second thing is sometimes I've done this mistake is start optimizing for things too early. So sometimes we spend a lot of energy. Okay, how do we cut delivery costs by 10 basis points?
mm,
And now cutting delivery cost at 10 basis points that time might mean only 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees. So that energy doesn't make sense. It makes
right.
sense maybe when that 10 basis points becomes 10 lakh rupees. So
Mm,
then that optimization makes sense. So that is something which we realize that, okay, not optimize it right now. Let's optimize it when we are at some scale.
Okay.
That is the second thing which I see myself. I've done it, and I see people doing it. Third is with something which I'm sure a lot of people hear or read from a lot of the successful entrepreneurs we hear or follow, is that we get attached to something and we don't want to come out of it. So that has happened with me as well. You want to like figure out very, uh, I would say, clinically and categorically, what does success and failure look like,
Hmm.
and be able to make an impartial call of switching away from things when they're not working, rather than tell yourself, okay, let's spend 3 more months, let's spend 2 more months, which can very soon compound and become a year or so. So yeah, I would say these three things.
Right. Okay. On this note, I think we have come to the end of the session. I would say it was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI. Thanks for your time, Naman, and our best wishes for Now Purchase.
Thanks a lot, Priya, for having us here. We are actively building our team across sales and product, as well as other business functions. Would be happy to, if anyone wants to looking at new growth opportunities, please reach out to us by looking at details on nowpurchase.com. Thanks a lot, Priya, for having us here.